What is that? It's got a black dot in the center of it. This looks to me like a pattern you would do if you were doing very detailed 3D mapping, like reconnaissance.
Strange drones were seen flying across several states in the U.S. These drones have been circling around in groups and in unusual ways, and this has left people confused and curious about what could be happening.
Where they're coming from and who's controlling them remains a mystery.
Some think it's part of the military's secret projects, while others are wondering if something else is going on. What exactly could be happening? Is there any hidden agenda the U.S. government is not talking about?
This time, we have lots of witnesses. And thankfully, one was a loyal viewer who sent us his own video.
Join us as we reveal the recent happenings surrounding drone sightings in the U.S. skies. The first drone sightings. Reports of strange drones sighted in some states in the U.S. recently have been said to have caused a lot of tension and civil unrest among residents, not leaving out government officials. Before the recent reports, the Federal Aviation Administration had earlier reported drone sightings since mid-November near Morris County, New Jersey. Several eyewitnesses have been said to have reported seeing them in the state starting in November.
For weeks now, New Jersey residents have been plagued by unexplained drones flying overhead. You can see tiny lights behind the trees there in the dark sky, very hard to see.
The drones were said to have been spotted flying along the scenic Raritan River, a river which feeds the Round Valley Reservoir, the state's largest aquifer of about 50 miles, which is 80 kilometers west of New York City. On December 3rd, the FBI field office in Newark confirmed that the public and law enforcement agencies had complained about drone sightings. The Republican New Jersey Assemblyman, Paul Kenitra, told CNN's Sarah Sidner on Friday morning that the police and the Department of Homeland Security confirmed it, that every single night since November 18th, there had been drone sightings around.
Our police, the county, the state, no one has anything to say about it. I think it's crazy.
It was described by the residents of New Jersey as drones that flew overhead and were sometimes in clusters. Morris and Somerset counties, both of which are counties in the New York metropolitan area, have also reported the sighting of the drones. The U.S. Coast Guard, which is part of the Department of Homeland Security, also reported that one of its assets encountered the drones. Drone sightings have now been reported to have spread across 6 states, which includes New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and Virginia. Concerns have grown that more drones were near the Picatinny Arsenal, which is a U.S. military research facility, and over President-elect Donald Trump's golf course in Bedminster. It was reported that the sightings made the Federal Aviation Administration issue temporary flight restrictions over the properties.
We're calling upon Congress, and Congressman Smith is leading the way, to modify legislation so that not just 3 federal agencies are able to have drone detection and de-drone equipment.
Democratic Senator Andy Kim of New Jersey was said to have posted videos that showed clusters of drones over the Round Valley Reservoir on Thursday night.
We're talking about the FAA should be able to tell us whether or not some of these are manned aircraft just based off of their expertise, their knowledge of flight patterns and timings of that.
But on Saturday posted on X that most of the aircraft he thought were drones were almost planes. The aircraft have also been reported to be seen in coastal areas. Republican U.S. Rep. Chris Smith said a Coast Guard commanding officer told him a dozen drones closely followed a guard lifeboat near Barnegat Light and Island Beach State Park in Ocean County over the weekend. Several other unrecognized drones were also reported to have entered the airspace above the Naval Weapons Station, Earl of the U.S., but no direct threats were said to have been seen. Reactions and speculations. The issue of drone sightings across the U.S. was said to have generated lots of reaction from different political stakeholders. Lawmakers criticized the response of the government to the sightings in the Northeast. The criticism came just a day after the federal agencies that led the response held a news briefing that left reporters and the general public with more questions than answers. They were said to have downplayed and legalized the growing concern about the reported drones, as officials emphasized that there was no evidence of a security threat. Also, the officials from the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI were said to have offered diverse attempts to dismiss or explain the source of the reported sightings. An FBI official was said to have pointed to the similarities between flight patterns and drone sightings.
We're investigating, but I don't have an answer of who's responsible for that, of one or more people that are responsible for those drone flights.
He said that it was indicative of manned aviation being mistaken for unmanned aviation or an unmanned aviation system. He further stated that there have been unmanned aircraft systems flying over the state of New Jersey. How true was that statement? Could it be a plot to dismiss the silent agenda of the Democrats before the inauguration of the president-elect? We're yet to find out. Meanwhile, a Defense Department official was reported to have reacted to the claims while discussing the reports over 2 military sites in New Jersey. He said that they did not know whether the activity was malicious or criminal, but described it as irresponsible. The National Security Advisor for President-elect Donald Trump, Representative Mike Waltz of Florida, reportedly took particular issue with the drones reported over military sites and restricted airspaces, including Trump's home in Bedminster, New Jersey.
We've had several incidents that have occurred and are occurring right now in places like New Jersey. Recently, we had an incident at Langley Air Force Base. The threat is real.
He told CBS News Face the Nation on Sunday that the drone issue highlighted gaps in the agencies, authorities, the Department of Homeland Security, local law enforcement, and the Defense Department. He also stressed the need for the Biden-led administration to address the situation thoroughly. A ranking Democratic representative member on the House Intelligence Committee, Jim Himes, was said to have expressed concern about the administration's response to the public. He stated on Fox News Sunday,
Number of aircraft, commercial and private and military, that go over New Jersey in any 24-hour period. And when people see that, they'll be like, oh my God, I cannot believe how many aircraft. And
that the government had a responsibility to provide more information so that people could better understand the real dangers. That's not all. In another report, New Jersey Senator John Bramnick was said to have called for a state of emergency. He reportedly criticized the government for a lack of transparency regarding the unexplained drone sightings, claiming that the government knew what the drones flying over the East Coast were, but was too afraid to inform the public. He told News Nation on Saturday that the authorities really don't want us to know. Bramnick urged the Department of Defense to be honest with the American public, following a series of drone appearances since November. John Kirby, the White House's National Security Communications Advisor, was reported to have reassured the public, stating that the sightings posed no national security or public safety threat. Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security, was also said to have asserted that he was unaware of any foreign involvement. The lack of explanation reportedly sparked significant criticism from some lawmakers, as drones continued to appear around sensitive areas. Due to rising panic, the New Jersey mayor revealed that his fire department had been instructed to wear hazmat suits in case the flying objects crashed. The World Health Organization reported that officials at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio were forced to suspend activities for approximately 4 hours from Friday to Saturday while authorities monitored the situation. There was also a call for transparency from the federal government and legislation on the issue by Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar. She told Face the Nation that there was a need for a briefing for the members of the Senate to figure out what was going on and that they needed transparency. She added the need for new regulatory rules and said she could bring up the issue during the next Congress. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas also sought to reassure the public in the midst of the sightings. He told ABC News that there was no question about people seeing drones, but assured the American public that the federal field had deployed additional resources, personnel, and technology to assist the New Jersey police in addressing the drone sightings.
Last night, starting around 8 o'clock, we started receiving multiple calls from residents about drone activity in the area. Officers went out to investigate.
Further investigations were carried out on the drone sightings, and several claims were put out by the authorities involved. A New Jersey congressman was said to have urged the Pentagon to authorize the use of force to ensure one or more drones are brought down to try to figure out who deployed them. The objects could be downed over the ocean or in an unpopulated area on land, Smith said on Saturday at a news conference. Smith questioned why they couldn't capture at least one of the drones to get to the bottom of the situation. What could the drones mean? Are they exactly what investigations claimed them to be? We would soon find out. Drone investigation and media claims. Several investigations were said to have been carried out in regards to the drone sightings. The Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Department of Homeland Security on Saturday
Explained sighting of drone activity.
Stressed that most of the recent sightings involved manned aircraft and that there was no evidence of any national security threat. A Federal Bureau of Investigation official was said to have told reporters during an impromptu briefing that the agency was working with 50 local, state, and federal partners to look into the increased reports. It was reported that less than 100 of the over 5,000 reported sightings had turned out to deserve further investigation, and all of the large fixed-wing reported sightings so far involved manned aircraft. An official stated that the combination of efforts so far included technical equipment and tip-line information. He further noted that those making consultations have not found any evidence that supports large-scale unmanned aerial systems activities, adding that many of the sightings occurred along regular flight paths. Extensive efforts were reported to be underway to investigate the remaining cases. An official stated that the investigation involved interviews, radar analysis, and intelligence assessments. The official further mentioned that the sightings could not be ignored and emphasized that they were doing their best to determine the origin of the drone activities. However, he also noted that some people had overreacted to the situation. The reported drone sightings, which began in New Jersey in mid-November, have garnered significant media attention and were said to have led to the creation of a Facebook page called New Jersey Mystery Drones, with 56,000 members. A White House official stated that U.S. President Joe Biden was receiving regular updates on the situation. On Friday, residents and a police officer in Harwich reportedly saw 15 drones flying in the night sky, according to the Boston Herald. The information was relayed to the Boston FBI and the Massachusetts State Police.
You're telling me we don't know what the hell these drones are in New Jersey are?
Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey said that she was aware of the growing number of drone sightings across the state and that authorities were monitoring the situation closely. In another report, Governor Kathy Hochul of New York on Saturday called for a boost in the federal law enforcement efforts after the runways at a local airport in the Hudson Valley were shut down for 1 hour due to drone activities on Friday. He urged the Joe Biden-led administration to boost law enforcement in New York and other areas. He also called on the Congress to pass drone reform legislation. An official of the Federal Aviation Administration said a temporary ban on drone activity had been put in place over Picatinny Arsenal, a military base in Wharton, New Jersey. He said it was due to expire on December 26th and could be made permanent. A military official was said to have told reporters that there had been drone sightings over Picatinny and another naval weapons station in December, but there had been no foreign actor or any malicious intent. He added that drone operations over military installations have been banned, but have been found to occur from time to time. A second ban was also said to be put in place over Trump's National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey, that was due to expire on December 20th, but could be extended, a Federal Aviation Administration official said. What do you think of drones flying around some states in the U.S.? A drone has just captured something no one was supposed to see in the forbidden area of the Grand Canyon, and these shocking discoveries will leave you questioning everything you know about history. So what are these ancient mysteries, and how and why is the government keen on keeping them away from the masses? Stick around as we explore the mysteries of this wonder of nature. The forbidden area of the Grand Canyon. Although the Grand Canyon National Park is a no-drone zone, a drone recently flew over what is now known as the forbidden area of the Grand Canyon National Park, an area that is closed off from the general public and only accessible to park rangers, military, and government personnel. This area spans across the region around where the Colorado River and the Little Colorado River meet, all the way to the Anasazi Bridge, and is considered sacred by many Native American tribes because of its cultural significance. Among the Native American tribes who live in the area, the Hopi and Navajo make up most of the inhabitants of the area. The Anasazi Bridge is a prehistoric bridge made of pine trees, perched 300 feet above the Colorado River. It is believed to have been used by the people of the ancestral Pueblo culture, from whom the Hopis and Navajos are descended. The government claims the restriction of movement placed around certain parts of the Grand Canyon is to protect the park's natural and cultural resources, ensure tourist safety, and preserve the park for future generations. But conspiracy theorists and alternative researchers insist that it is just an elaborate cover-up. The common notion is that there is indeed a forbidden zone within Grand Canyon National Park, despite the authorities' claims, and it's forbidden for anyone to hike, camp, or explore there. It is also believed by many that beneath this so-called forbidden area of the Grand Canyon lies a secret, the last remains of an ancient and even extraterrestrial civilization that once thrived right in the heart of the canyon. In the recent episodes of the controversial podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience, Joe Rogan and some of his guests like geologist Dr. Randall Carlson, historian Graham Hancock, and author Brian Hotep Jesus Sharp discussed the drone footage that allegedly exposed the existence of ancient Egyptian artifacts and a hidden subterranean city in the Grand Canyon.
Could there be a hidden city in the Grand Canyon? Believe it or not, there are tales of an ancient underground metropolis discovered in the early 1900s.
The three experts also went deep into the closure of the canyon and the possible effects on the tourism industry and the economy in general. They also discussed the discovery of ancient reptile fossils in the allegedly off-limits areas of the canyon, which allude to ancient Egyptian civilization, and they even went so far as to suggest that nefarious branches of the U.S. federal government secretly monitor the entire area. Alan Krill's stunning discovery. Norwegian geologist Alan Krill was hiking along the Grand Canyon National Park's Bright Angel Trail with a group of students when a huge boulder caught his attention. This boulder had markings on it that Krill suspected were reptile footprints. Alan Krill then took pictures of these markings and sent them to his friend at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. This friend, a paleontologist named Stephen Rowland, carefully examined these markings and concluded that they were indeed ancient fossilized footprints. But which animal did they belong to? In a recent article published in the science journal PLOS One, Professor Rowland estimated that those fossils found by Krill are about 313 million years old. This revelation is coming about 6 years after Krill discovered the boulder, but it is important to note that it is now the oldest fossil ever found in the park. But this is not why the government would want to conceal the information from the public. As Rowland wrote in the article, this find is also the earliest evidence of amniotes living in dunes, predating other evidence by at least 8 million years. The interesting part is that these footprints could belong to an animal that is not supposed to exist. This is some of the earliest known evidence of a hard-shelled egg-laying animal known as an amniote. Although other scientists have debated Rowland's interpretation, there's not enough evidence to disprove his theory, either as the part of the park where the fossils were found is now closed off from the public. This is not the only ancient secret that lies deep in the Grand Canyon. Let us look at other stories of ancient findings in the canyons. The Smithsonian Expedition of Kincaid and Jordan.
In the early 1900s, a prospector named George Kincaid claimed to have discovered a cave in the Grand Canyon that contained Egyptian artifacts.
On April 5, 1909, the Arizona Gazette ran the headline tagged, "Explorations in Grand Canyon, Mysteries of Immense Rich Cavern Being Brought to Light. Jordan is enthused. Remarkable find indicates ancient people migrated from Orient." This shocking article claimed that the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History funded two geologists, Professor S.A. Kincaid and Professor G.E. Jordan, on an exploration along the Colorado River that runs through the canyon, and what they found shocked everybody. Professor Kincaid and Professor Jordan in the article claimed that on their expedition, they discovered old fossils and rocks that showed undeniable proof of an ancient civilization, possibly of Egyptian origin that once existed deep in the craters of the Grand Canyon. The Smithsonian was founded as a body responsible for collecting and researching natural wonders and preserving fossils that tell the story of the Earth's natural history in 1846, so it seemed plausible that they could sponsor such an expedition. The expedition took place just a few years after the canyons was opened to visitors as a tourist attraction, therefore making it one of the most visited places in America at the time. However, just before it was set to be open to the public, President Teddy Roosevelt ordered for certain areas of the beautiful canyon to be closed off to the public, claiming the closure was an effort to prevent illegal wood loggers who wanted to cut down the trees in the canyon. Despite the reason the president gave for his decree, the Phoenix Gazette in their article claimed that there was something far darker that the president was trying to keep away from the public by closing off parts of the canyon. What could this secret be that the President of the United States would get involved? According to the story, the two geologists went into the canyon to seek gold and other treasures, but instead, they found something unexpected. Once in the canyon, Kincaid and Jordan climbed up to 2,000 feet above the ground, about 42 miles from the post known as the Lover Crystal Canyon, where they found a staircase leading up to a massive cave. Expecting to find gold, they strutted into the cave but were instead welcomed by huge oval entrances and fancy ventilation systems. The scientists began to wonder what this place was, and their suspicions of it being an ancient underground city grew when they came across a large cross hall with a gigantic statue in the middle. Kincaid and Jordan noted that this statue had a religious aura to it. It held a lotus flower in each hand and had a striking resemblance to the image of Buddha. This further cemented their suspicions that this must have been a metropolis of a thriving ancient civilization, complete with its language, writing, and counting system, and its religious practices and deities. Professor Kincaid and Professor Jordan excitedly hurried back to the Smithsonian to report their findings and get more people involved in the expedition.
Kincaid rushed back to the Smithsonian and assembled a team of researchers, including Professor Jordan. It would take a whole team to sift through the findings.
Kincaid and Jordan's second expedition of the Grand Canyon. Excited by what they found in their first expedition, Professor Kincaid and Professor Jordan made their way back to the caves just a few months after their first expedition, this time probing even deeper into the canyon until they found a new set of caves. Once back in the caves, Kincaid and Jordan stumbled upon a treasure trove of knives, spears, and other copper tools needed for everyday survival. None of these things surprised Kincaid and Jordan, as they had seen them before on their first expedition. However, what caught the attention of the geologists was a series of markings on the cave walls that looked unmistakably like Egyptian hieroglyphs. Who could have made these markings native to the people of ancient Egypt in the United States? What Kincaid and Jordan didn't know was that more surprises were waiting for them the deeper they went into the cave. Following a granite staircase, the two men got to a part of the cave with mysterious holes in them, but the holes in the cave walls were not empty. They contained what looked like giant mummies all wrapped up in dark linen. This was by far the biggest breakthrough the duo had made in their escapade. It felt like they had finally found their holy grail, undeniable proof of their theory, but an unfortunate incident was awaiting them. You see, Kincaid and Jordan took a camera along with them on their second expedition, and Kincaid claimed that he took a few pictures of the wrapper mummies. He also claimed to have carried along some of the cooler tools and other items they found inside the cave as they left the canyon, although this is still yet to be proven. Kincaid's account stated that he sent the items and photographs to the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History headquarters in Washington, D.C., where they knew some professionals, but Kincaid and Jordan never expected the silent treatment from their sponsors. Powell's first exploration of the Grand Canyon. For decades, there seemed to be no proof that the exploration had ever taken place, and no documents have ever been found that point to the existence of either Professor Kincaid or Professor Jordan. But the story published by the Arizona Gazette still sprouted wings and spread all over Arizona and its environs. Since then, scientists, archaeologists, and geologists have become obsessed with the Grand Canyon. This obsession was not for the canyon's beautiful landscape, but for what secrets allegedly lie within its 1,000-year-old rocks and caves. Here's where it begins to get interesting. In January 2014, when it seemed like the world had completely forgotten about the rumored ancient civilization in the bowels of the Grand Canyon, some new information surfaced about the expedition of Kincaid and Jordan. A new name popped up in the story, and the existence of this new character by the name of John Wesley Powell would explain the mystery of Kincaid and Jordan's non-existence in the original Smithsonian records about the Grand Canyon expedition. This little finding would change everything we knew about the history of the expedition. John Wesley Powell was the first director of the Bureau of American Ethnology at the Smithsonian. While serving in the Army as a geologist, Powell was in charge of the United States Geology Survey. But what he achieved in the Grand Canyon was by far the most important feat he attained. In 1869, John Wesley Powell led the very first scientific expedition into the Grand Canyon to study the Colorado River.
In 1869, John Wesley Powell, a Civil War veteran and geologist, led a daring expedition down the Colorado River through the treacherous Grand Canyon.
For this expedition, John Wesley Powell gathered 10 men, 4 boats, and food supplies for about 10 months as he set out from the Green River in Wyoming on the 24th of May, 1869. Powell and his crew passed through dangerous rapids till they got to the point where the Green River met the Colorado River, which they intended to study, on August 13th, 1869. While on the expedition, Powell wrote in his journal that he saw several wonderful features like carved walls, royal arches, glens, alcove gulches, and mounds, but alongside these naturally occurring features that decorated the Grand Canyon. He also spotted many caves along a beaten path with some bits of pottery and some hieroglyphs scribbled on some of the rocks and ruins, suggesting the existence of an old civilization in the area. Apparently, this report triggered the interest of many scientists in the area, and the story has it that the Smithsonian sent Professor Kincaid and Jordan into the canyon for the very purpose of confirming Powell's account of this ancient civilization in the canyon. Powell's second exploration of the Grand Canyon. Although John Wesley Powell claimed he uncovered a lot of archaeological wonders on his expedition, he had very little evidence to back up his claims. So in less than 2 years, Powell was back in the canyon, and because he needed actual evidence to prove his supposed findings from the first expedition, he decided to hire 3 photographers to go along with him on the second voyage up the Colorado River from the Green River. The 3 photographers were Elias Olcott Beeman, James Fenimore, and John K. Hillers. This proved to be a very smart move in the long run, as this expedition would have photos, maps, and various other forms of documentation for proof of their findings in the canyon. The photographers were not the only new members added to Powell's crew whilst he planned the second expedition. Powell also employed the services of a Mormon missionary from Utah named Jacob Hamblin. This missionary had experience living with Native American tribes, spoke their language, and understood their culture. This bit of information is important to note because it sheds light on what may have happened to Powell on his first exploration that informed his preparation for the second. It is believed that on his first exploration of the hieroglyph-scribbled caves of the Grand Canyon, John Wesley Powell must have met some Native American groups who were probably what remained of the lost tribe of the Grand Canyon, and that this tribe attacked Powell's company and killed 3 of his crew members at the mouth of the Virgin River on August 30th, 1869. Some historians have speculated they were killed by the Shivwits band of Paiute Indians. This gives more credibility to the theory that a secret tribe lived in the caves of the Grand Canyon. The reports also stated that after Powell's expeditions, dozens of explorers poured into the canyon and found an astonishing 400 Native American campsites near the Grand Canyon National Park, some of them even dating back to 12,000 years ago. The Hopi Tribe of the Grand Canyon. Allegedly, when Kincaid and Jordan got to the heart of the canyon during their exploration, they found out that the dozens of Native American tribes who settled near the Grand Canyon had legends and myths about the mysteries that happened inside the canyon itself. The Hopi tribe had a story that had been passed down from generation to generation amongst the tribesmen about their ancestors who built and sustained an underground civilization inside the Grand Canyon thousands of years ago. According to the stories, The caves in the canyon were home to a tribe of people who would capture any foreigner who was unfortunate enough to wander into one of them. The Hopi Tribe is the westernmost division of the Pueblo Indian tribe. They have lived in Arizona for centuries, and although the precise origin of the Hopi people is unknown, it is believed that they and other Pueblo peoples descended from the ancestral Pueblo, tribe known as the Anasazi, whom the Hopi call Hisatsinom, a Pueblo word meaning ancient people. Hopi origin traditions tell that their ancestors climbed upward through underground chambers called kivas and lived in many different locations before reaching their present settlements. This origin story further gave credibility to Powell's theory of an underground people having existed in the Grand Canyon in the past. Much like Powell before them, Professor Kincaid and Professor Jordan went back home to prepare reinforcements for a second exploration. Did the story really happen? Do you think it's a mere distraction or a hidden agenda to shift the attention of people from the forthcoming presidential inauguration? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click on the following video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.